So, Don Toliver just dropped album of the year a couple days ago. Don Toliver dropped his long-awaited album Octane, and it was very good. I don't know if it's better than Don't Be Dumb. It could be album of the year so far. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the album. Give it a rating out of 10 in the comments. In saying that, today we're going to be going through and creating a beat together for the Octane album. To start off with, I'm going to start off with a bass line and kind of lay the foundations for a bass line so then we can work around it. These kind of groovy, bouncy bass lines, you can hear them in songs such as Body.
Oh my god, Jackson, can I try on your glasses?
And ATM. And these bass lines give the beat its main bounce. And now let's lay some chords down. So yeah, that's the bass I've come up with. Here in the middle, we're just going to repeat that over 9 bars. Basically, all that's going to do is, just keep that same bass line throughout the song. So when the drums start mainly. I might get another 808 sound or a kind of different bass sound, like a pluck bass sound to kind of fill out in the middle here. But we'll move on to that later. Now we've got that bounce, we'll get into the main melody. So I found this very nice pluck bass. And instead of doing the main melody, I decided I think I'm just going to fill out that space in between each synth bass sound. And I'm just going to place the plucks where it feels right and kind of, as I said, create that groovy bass line that we're going for. Okay, I kind of like that. I add one there. Okay, I like that. And then I think something a little more complex on this bar. Okay, I like that. That's nice. So I'll just repeat that. Let's just humanize this to kind of get that humanized effect so it doesn't sound robotic. This humanize. So it's kind of like being played live. Just mess with the velocity range. Offset, so it's all over the place. Let's now hear it. Around the velocities. reckon that's hard. So now in terms of mixing the two bass sounds, I want that first bass to really hit hard. So basically I'm just gonna EQ some of the high end so it doesn't clash with other parts of the melody. But I still need some of that high end sound. That's what makes this kind of synth bass unique. So I just do it like this usually. Yep. But I want this bass to hit, I want this first bass to hit really hard. So basically all I'm gonna add is just, I'm gonna add bloody overdrive for a bit of distortion. See how it's a lot harder. I think for this, for the pluck, EQ some of the highs. Some of the highs are a bit, I don't really like that high. And then I think I'm just gonna add a little bit of, I'm gonna add a bit of soft clipper for it. I think the soft clipper will be nice. So here's our final bass line. So yeah, I'm really happy with that bass line and what we came up with. And now let's get into the main parts of the melody. So to also kind of help me develop the melody a little better, I've kind of added like a little kind of perk loop from Splice to kind of give just to see how the bass works with the drums, and then it'll kind of give me an idea on how to kind of develop my melody from here. So I'll just let it play out and let you listen to it. So yeah, let's now finally move on to the melody. So I found this very nice key slash pad from Synth Palace's analog lab kit, Patch Play, the analog bank. Yeah, and we're just gonna put some chords down and see what sounds nice. So let's do it. And I think for the second chord, I'm just gonna do this. Simple. I reckon that's a very nice basis to start. I'll let it play out and I'll see what you guys think. So now for the effects, all I'm gonna do is just add an EQ, take out some of that high, like very high end. And that low end. Maybe a chorus. Add a little bit of a chorus on that. I feel like some delay would make this like a lot better. Give it that more ambient sound. Perfect. Perfect. Now I feel like we're just gonna add a layer to this. I'm gonna layer it maybe with another pad, and yeah, when I get the final, when I get the sound, I'll be back. So basically, while I was looking for another sound, I went through the multi-pedals kit, and I found this kind of melody layer, and it gives it that nice character, and I think I'm gonna keep it in the final the pattern. It sounds like this before effects, so I think once we EQ it and we add a bit of add some more effects, it'll sound like a lot better. I feel like it complements the other sounds very well. So we add it to a mixer track. I think we'll add obviously an EQ. The high ends are very very loud. I think a bit of a chorus. I think some delay as well. Perfect. So now it should sound very nice with all these. I've come back and found a very nice synth key slash pad from Dylan XO from his Distant kit. Honestly, one of my favorite YouTubers in the game right now. So I've just got this preset called Back Where You Belong, and it kind of is like a mix of a pad and a synth key. It kind of sounds like this on its own. I think it will complement the pad very well. So if we listen to that in the pad, so it kind of gives that Don Toliver synthy kind of out there sound, because Octane was full of all these experimental synth sounds, not a lot of kind of not your typical kind of your futuristic synths, not your typical vintage Juno pads and stuff like that. A lot of experimental sounds. So this sound is perfect. So we'll just add an EQ and get some of that high end out. I think for this, I want to add reverb. I want this to be wider than all the other sounds. So I think we're just going to add a reverb and keep it simple with no delay. Just a big reverb. It's a lot better. So now we introduced it to the different sounds. Maybe calm down a bit of the reverb, it's a bit too wide. I think that's about it. I think we've got the foundation down. I don't add too many sounds to overcomplicate it. And I think that's it. I'll probably add just our high strings and a vocal. That's about it. We've got our like foundation, and then we can move on to the drums. So I found this nice string ensemble from the Purple Skies kit. It's another analog lab bank, and I think it'll give it like in some areas of the beat, it'll give it some nice character. It sounds like this, and I'm just gonna keep it super simple. I'm gonna keep almost a very similar, if not the same, top line from our pad sound. So basically, I think that should do it. Yeah, I think that's perfect. Just like this. Sorry. Do it like this, and at the end, I'm just gonna make it a little different, like in the 5th bar as well. Alright, perfect. Now just for effects, not gonna be anything too crazy. This is more like e-candy throughout the beat. So it should have a little more high end than everything else. A little bit of chorus. I think also a little bit of distortion. And I think some reverb as well. I don't like that second pattern. I think I just overcomplicated it. Just gonna copy this over. Except for, yeah, there we go. See, sometimes overcomplicating doesn't work, but yeah, I think we've got our final kind of beat, and we can start kind of arranging it and then putting in the different drums. That sounds mad. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the vocal. That's the last thing I want in this beat. So kind of like body, have that kind of hook throughout the beat. And yeah, I'll be back with I'll be going through wave.com or Splice. I'll go through both and I'll see what I find. I'm back. I think I found something perfect for the vibes we're going for. I found this. I just searched by royalty free and I've searched synth and vocal, and I found this, just literally the third sound, and I thought, yep, this is perfect. I'll let it play out just on its own. That's perfect. I think with that bass line we got going on, that will do. I'm gonna go export it and I'll be back. I've exported the vocals, I've sped it up, and I'm gonna pitch it up 100 cents. So the vocals kind of sound like this. Oh, that already has so much potential. I'm gonna now just process the vocals with a couple of effects. So yeah, now we're gonna process the vocals with some effects. I've kind of added an EQ. Yeah, and then I think we're gonna add some distortion to that. I think a little bit of delay, or I think this is. That's so hard. That as an intro with the bass. Oh, so now we're just gonna rearrange everything. I reckon. Just. And then we can kind of introduce okay. I can introduce the strings here. That's mad. That's perfect. So yeah, basically I've arranged the, I've kind of introduced the vocals with the bass straight away, kind of start that bounce off early in the beat, kind of like body, excuse me, the vocal starts and straight away you get into the bass, the bounce with the bass, and then I kind of introduce the plucked bass a bit later, and then I start the strings off to add a bit of a tension. And then we just get straight with the perks and we get straight into the actual melody. So I'll let you listen for yourselves. So yeah, that's basically the beat. That's basically the melody. We've got the sample done. I'm not too sure about letting the vocals play throughout the whole song. I think they kind of clash a little bit. So I might do a little bit of vocal chop at the end, but we'll do that at the end once we get the drums down, and we'll see how everything kind of flows. Listening to the final mix, all I've done is now I've realized that the bass didn't hit as hard as I wanted to. So all I basically did was I EQ'd it here. I went on here and I boosted it through this channel, and then all I've done is I've upped the velocity a little bit. You don't want to up the velocity too much, because then you get that like really weird distortion and it just doesn't sound nice. And then in terms of mixing, all I've kind of done, I found the melody was too loud, like all like the pads, and I've kept the strings I've boosted them a little bit because they weren't too prominent, but I found that the pads and the chords we put down were too loud. So I put them down and I boosted the bass a little bit. The pluck bass I've kept the same, because they kind of act like 808s in a sense. But if you hear it now, I've turned down the vocals here because there was just too much going on. So then now when we start it, you can hear the bass hit through and you can hear the vocals clearly. I'll let you guys listen for yourselves. So now the bass is hitting a lot more. Actually, I might also boost the pluck bass a little bit. It's hitting a lot more, so the bounce is there. So I've boosted a little bit. You don't want to boost it too much because then it doesn't sound good. Okay. That's a lot better. Okay, I think we've got everything kind of mixed well. I think the melody's done at this point. I rearranged, so I want the vocals to kind of keep going for 30 seconds, and I want there to be like just a melody here. So I think the vocals kind of fades off well here, like, you know, it gets turned down and it acts with the melody, and I don't want it too repetitive. I'll play it in bridges and stuff like that. So yeah, now I think we move on to the main drum sounds. We've secured the drum bounce. I'll let you just hear the drums just in its pattern on its own. And the drums sound like this. So basically all I've done is I've just added a snare on the 3rd and the 7th, just a typical trap snare. Then I've added like a little bit of a counter snare here and there, just to kind of sauce up the drums, add a little bit more bounce. It's really subtle. Like if you hear the counter snare, how loud it is, I'm gonna make it probably more subtle than that. In terms of drums, I don't really, when I mix my drums, all I do is basically just play with the volume. Sometimes AQ sounds out I don't really like, but generally if you mix your melodies well, the drums should just fit right in. I don't really do much with my drums. Obviously kicks and 808s, I usually like to obviously what's it called, like to sidechain. I always sidechain them to my bass, but in this point in time, I don't think we need to add a kick either. We've got that pluck bass kind of acting like an 808. So I think we're in terms of 808s or kicks, we're fine. I don't think it needs. I think if we add the kick, that low end just gonna be filled out too much. It's gonna be too overpowering. Hi-hats, all I did was just add in a 2-step hi-hat pattern, randomize the velocities, and added like 2 rolls. This is really only a 3-bar loop. I copied it over, but I kind of added like the start. I gave the start of the loop, kind of its own individual like drum roll to start the hi-hat. I'll let you guys hear the hi-hats. I see. I don't really like my hi-hats to be too overpowering, so I've kind of turned them down a little bit. But yeah, the hi-hats are there. They fit well with the melody. I'll probably turn them down a little bit. I like my snare to hit, and I like my hi-hats to kind of, I don't know, kind of be in the background. I don't like them too loud. So, and I don't overcomplicate most of my hi-hat patterns. As you can see, this is a pretty simple hi-hat pattern with just a couple of rolls. Then I added an open hat. Again, literally just for that bounce. Not too overpowering. And then lastly, I've added a cowbell. This is pretty big. Don Toliver likes in his production, cowbell's really prominent, and it adds that nice bounce. And in this one, see, we've just done a 5-bar loop, but it just creates that bounce for the whole drum loop. It kind of gives the song character and bounce, and that's really, like, as I said, common in a lot of Don Toliver's production, especially in Octane. I think it was Body where there was kind of like a cowbell like this. So kind of like to complement the snare and the counter snare. And yeah, there are our drums. Mixing's basically done. I'll let you listen to the beat with the drums. Alright guys, I'm finished with the arrangement. Basically I've kept that same intro. It slowly comes in, and I've played the vocals here, and then I've started with the drums straight after the vocals. I've kind of turned the vocals down there so it doesn't clash the melody too much. And I kind of only added the vocals during bridges. I felt like it kind of clashed. But generally I only introduced the hi-hat and the counter snare a couple times. Otherwise, I kept that kind of groove and bounce going with just the snare and the cowbell. So it kind of sounds like this once the beat starts. And I've only really played the full drum loop like twice, and then during the bridge I've added just the vocals and the snare and the cowbell and the open hat to kind of like a little bridge. And then again on the outro I just had the bridge. I kind of did another bridge for the outro, just a snare and the cowbell, and then once the drum stopped I kind of did an outro with the vocals and the bass. So this is how the outro sounds like. So that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys have learned something. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you like these kind of style of videos, or any suggestions you guys have video wise that you'd want to see more of. And yeah, this was a beat for Don Toliver's Octane. The rest of the video will just be the beat playing. And yeah, again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.